Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to the Chiefs Cheat Sheet. Darren Smith, Steve Walls. We are live from Chicago, Illinois, at Soldier Field, getting you all ready for Chiefs' first game of the season, well, preseason, of course, against Chicago Bears. Of course, Steve. A lot of questions that the Chiefs hope to get answered this upcoming season, beginning, of course, with this game in preseason. So, what are your expectations for the first game? Look, and football is finally back, so that's something that
Yeah.
we're all very happy and excited about. But your thoughts on today's matchup?
Man, it didn't last long. The break didn't last long.
No, it lasted too long. What are you talking about?
I'm excited, man. Because we get a chance to get to see what this team will first quarter at
Yeah,
least. And
at least first series.
exactly, at least first series. Now I've been saying that if this offense can go down 7 plays, 8 plays, and score,
We're
I
not
don't.
going to see it.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is going to hang him up for the rest of the day, and you're going to see him in a ball cap. But I'm excited to see what this team can be going into the 2022-23 season.
Obviously, we've got a lot to talk about. There have been some massive changes
Hmm.
since the end of the season after the AFC Championship game. No more Tyreek Hill. Obviously, the wide receiving core outside of McCall Hardman have disappeared or gone elsewhere. There's been, Tyrann Mathieu on the defense side of football. He's no longer here in Kansas City. The Chiefs, because of the trade that they made with the Miami Dolphins, with Tyreek Hill, got a plethora of weapons and draft picks that they utilize. I'd like to say pretty well in the offseason.
I would agree. You getting like the stadium PA announcer is saying right now, allow me to reintroduce myself. That's gonna be Patrick Mahomes, right?
Yeah.
That's what he's been, so called the deep ball thrower. Oh, you have Tyreek Hill, Tyreek Hill, and so now he's gonna be able to show, okay, I'm more than just a Tyreek Hill ball thrower, right? I can throw the intermediate routes. I'm able to make people better, and I think that's what made Tom Brady so great. And I can't believe I'm using Tom Brady in a show about the Chiefs, right? But that's what made Tom Brady so great is that he was able to make everyone else around him better. And I think that's what the great players are able to do. So if he wants to be a great player, that's what he's going to have to do. He's going to have to make Juju Smith. He's going to have to make MVS, Miko, all those guys. He's going to have to make them better.
And look, you mentioned Juju, you mentioned Marquez, Valdez-Scantling, but there's also new folks on the
Hmm.
defensive end.
Hmm.
Chiefs just brought in Carlos Dunlap about a week or so ago. They've got a Justin Reed who they acquired in the offseason to replace a Tyrann
Right.
Matthews. When you look at those additions, and again, we talk about some of the subtractions that they made. What's that going to mean for the Chiefs as upcoming season? Do you perceive more struggles to get off, to start the season off? And obviously, with the way that the division is, quarterback play, Devontae Adams
Hmm.
arriving to the Las Vegas Raiders. Expectations for this upcoming season.
You know what? I don't think this defense is at least the front, at least the guys down front in the linebacking core. I don't think they're going to have a slow start. If anything, it would just be the secondary. Those are the new pieces, um, um, other than cornerback Juan Thornhill,
Yeah.
right? I think everyone else is they've been here. They've been cornerstones, and then Carlos Dunlap. So I feel like these guys are going to be able to pick up right where they left off. Now, of course, Steve Spagnuolo, he's understood. It takes some guys a little while uh, to learn his playbook, his scheme. And so when you think about what they've been able to do just over the past few years, they're going to be able to pick right back up. Now he's going to dumb it down a little bit, of course. Like today's game, don't expect, and I want everybody to understand this. Don't expect to see him, drawing up these exotic blitz schemes with that he's known for. They're just going to line up and play football. That's what Justin Reed said earlier this week. It's like we're not going to show anything. We're still learning. So we still have a couple more weeks before our first game of the season, which they then will be expected to be able to showcase some stuff.
So Andy Reid has said this week that
Hmm.
he expects his starters to play in the first quarter,
Right.
and basically the quarterbacks to play. Got four quarterbacks. He's expecting all of them to play one quarter. I kind of agree with you that if Patrick comes down, scores early, in the first series, I don't think we see him anymore.
Right.
Obviously, if you look at around the league, you see that there's been a lot of players, a lot of rash of injuries that that's been taking place or whatever. So we definitely want to kind of make sure that that doesn't happen, of course, here in Chicago. But I do have to ask you this, Steve. When we look at we talk about the wide receivers. One thing that we haven't talked about is the new additions to the running back game, or at
Yeah.
least to the running game. Obviously, Clyde Edwards-Helaire returns for his third season. He's a starter. But they brought in Ronald Jones. They also brought back Jake McKinnon. I think they still have Gore as well.
Hmm.
And then, of course, you bring in the rookie that you drafted, Pacheco. So that being the case, I mean, when we look at this, what's it say? Again, I go back to the addition by subtraction. We lost Tyreek Hill, but with the addition, though, with all that you got and with the veterans that you have in that backfield, to me, I believe that kind of gives the Chiefs a little bit of a better balanced offense that you can kind of focus on. Now,
Yeah.
granted, they almost rushed for 2,000 yards last year, which is nothing to sneeze at. But with so many different dimensions of the running game that they can actually utilize, to me, it kind of eases a little bit of pressure off of Patrick Mahomes as he tries to deal with his new receivers.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a good problem to have. I mean, you have the young guy in Isaiah Pacheco that we know he's going to make the team. Dave Tobe, special teams coordinator, head assistant coach, he's already come out and said, "Hey, he's going to be our return guy, our kickoff return guy." So we know he's going to be there. Now, the other pieces are the unknown, and that is with Derek Gore and also Ronald Jones. Now, Ronald Jones, the past couple of, well, I take that back. He on Thursday, he was running with the fourth string. He's running
Yeah.
with third and fourth string. So I asked Andy Reid after practice. He said, "Well, everyone's been moved around a little bit, trying to sugarcoat it, but I just don't see it. I don't see it. When you have a guy that's a veteran that knows his place and knows his spot, and knows that he's going to be a part of a team." You'll see the energy from him. I just didn't see the energy from Ronald Jones. But today we're going to get a good dose of Ronald Jones. Now, Clyde, I feel like if he's healthy, he'll be okay. I think he's going to be able to be out in the passing game, which is uh, true form for him. He did it in LSU with Joe Burrow. That's just his game. And then you know what you're going to get from McKinnon. McKinnon's one of those guys that you can throw out there. He's fast, he's elusive, and so the running game I feel like is going to be there. Me, I like Rojo. People, I posted that Rojo is going to be. He may not make the team, and it was a firestorm on Twitter. But I just want people to know I do like Rojo. I do like his game. Look, he's the Super Bowl winning running back. He played with a future Hall of Famer. So I feel like he's gonna be he to me he's that Kareem Hunt, he's that every down back. But I feel like they see the same in Isaiah Pacheco.
Darren Smith, Steve Walls. We are live from Soldier Field. We're inside the press
Hmm.
box. Chiefs get ready to take on, as you see on our other camera. You see the Bears right now on the field. The Chiefs are in the locker room as they get ready to come out and get set up, of course, for kickoff at noon. Thank you for watching us via social media, Facebook, Twitter, as well as YouTube. Steve, look, there's so much, and of course, we thank the fans for tuning in and watching. If you have
Hmm.
any questions or comments, feel free to drop it down. We'll try to address it. I do know that Lamar Wallace has asked, is Josh Gordon the odd man out as it relates in the wide receiver room? Now, that would be the expectation of the Chiefs are only, I guess the first question would be is how many wide receivers do you think the Chiefs in with at the end of camp
Mm.
and going into the season? Because I can't see them going with just four wide receivers. One, just because of the health history of Marquez, where he kind of gets nicked up or whatever. And
Right.
so for me, I think that unless something happens and I'm looking at this, I don't see why he doesn't make the team. I mean,
Yeah.
look, first of all, you got a big body wide receiver. He's had enough time now to learn the playbook. He's in football shape, so to speak, and he's continued to build a rapport, along with Patrick, with the coaching staff. So, and to be quite honest, going on the social scale,
Hmm.
social side of it, it's hard for me to see the Chiefs kind of cutting them because with Josh, he didn't have the pressure of being a number one wide receiver that he
Yeah.
had when he was in Cleveland to an extent in New England. So because of that, he didn't have that pressure where you think that he might have to, he might backtrack or something like that. So I think that it's been real good for him to be around this type of atmosphere. And it's hard for me to see the Chiefs unless the other receivers are just blowing them out the water. It's hard for me to see Josh Gordon not making the 53-man roster.
Yeah, I just hadn't seen it from him in camp. I mean, he's had a lot of drops. And
Okay.
so I know he's a veteran. I know, Chiefs fans want him to be the Josh Gordon that we remember from 4 or 5 years ago. he's not that. To me, he's not that same player. Of course, he's a veteran guy. He's gonna, if you want to have a locker room guy, he's a guy that you can. I mean, you can count on him for that. But
So you don't
I
think he
don't
makes
take
it?
I don't take away another spot for a young. I don't take a spot from a young guy to put a Josh Gordon in, whereas you don't know what you're going to get from him. I mean, we saw a little glimpse last year, but we didn't really see much. Andy Reid likes to showcase guys in different games, but we didn't really see it from him. And I know he was still just trying to get his feet under him. Look, you had a whole season with Patrick Mahomes. Now you should be able to come out and showcase something.
Great. Looking at this though, obviously Sky Moore. Again, we're looking at some players that we expect, and I want to go to that right now.
Hmm.
Expectations of the rookies. Now we got Sky Moore, who the Chiefs drafted in the second round. Obviously, look at the first round. George Karlaftis on the defensive line,
Right.
along with Trent McDuffie. Obviously, we talk about Pacheco a little bit. Joshua Williams a lot. He and I believe it's Baker. Looking at the safety, I'm sorry. This
DeAndre Baker.
Yeah, DeAndre. No, Brian Cook. I'm sorry, Brian Cook.
Hmm.
They've been getting the chance along with Leo Chanel. Some of these players have been running with the first team throughout training camp. One, how important is it for these rookies to get meshed in with these veterans? As they've been rotating, but also what are the expectations that you're expecting from these rookies, and how soon will most of them contribute to the team's success?
I think you're gonna have to throw him into the fire. Justin Reed talked about, e- the young guys and them having to, not having the mental errors. They're gonna be expected to play well, but you're gonna have you're gonna have a mental lap, but you can't have that twice, right? And especially in the cornerback position. Now I think they've gotten a little bit bigger in the cornerback position. And you think about L'Jarius Sneed. He's a tall guy. Trent McDuffie. I'm not really high on McDuffie right now. I want to see how he. I don't think he. Look, people want him to come out and be. People want him to come out and be a Marcus Peters. They really do. They want him to come out and be Marcus Peters, but he's not that. He's not going to be a get up in your face, rah rah type guy. That's just not
That
going to be
actually
him.
might
And
be a
he's
good
not.
thing if he's not a Marcus. Now,
Well,
granted, Marcus Peters was an All Pro.
exactly.
He was balling.
I'm not talking about his off the field things. I'm
Nah,
talking about his on the field like grind and his grit. I don't think I haven't seen that from him in camp. So
he
maybe
had a lot of
maybe
interceptions too, if I remember
maybe
correctly.
maybe he can, maybe he can come out here and be that, but I'm not really sure that that's going to be him. But I do like Lonnie Johnson, another tall guy. I do like Jalen Watson, another tall guy. So I just think with the length, they're going to have a lot of length this year, and it's going to be fun to watch these defensive backs, man, because I think you're going to play a lot of bump and run, man to man type, no zone.
Well, look,
Just
one of the things that the Chiefs finally did this season,
hmm
and I've been harping on it for the last few years, is that they finally went tall in their defensive back because you look at the receivers that they're going to be facing. Obviously, you got a couple of them in Los Angeles. Devontae Adams coming now to the side of the conference. I mean, they got some size, and if the Chiefs coming up, if they're coming up against these players, and you got some small receivers, they're going to just throw it up and throw it over the
hmm
top each and every time. Look, man, there's so much to talk about as we get into and get prepared for the first game. One of the things I want to ask you about, Steve, is the return of Matt Nagy to. Of course, he was just the head coach last year before he got fired. The Chiefs became a safe landing spot for him. What do I mean, if you're Matt Nagy, what do you think about going into today's game? I mean, obviously you're not, you know, maybe put
I
it
don't.
forward if you
Yeah,
could.
yeah. I don't think you're really thinking about that. I mean, they party ways. He's back with a contender. When you think about it from that aspect, it's like, hey, I'm back home. I'm back with it. I mean, the Bears aren't looked at as being an NFC contender, but the Chiefs are looked at as being an AFC contender. So it's like, all right, and I'm with an MVP winning quarterback. So I think he's like, oh, my job is secure. So at the end of the day, I just feel like he's not really looking into that or anything like that.
Going back to the defense, one of the changes that we've seen physically this offseason is
Hmm.
Frank Clark. Um,
Lost a lot of weight, man.
he lost a lot of weight, and for me that was a little bit of a concern.
You thought he was stressing?
Huh?
You thought he was stressed?
No, I thought it was something else. I'm not
No,
gonna talk about it. I thought it
no,
was something
nah,
else.
man.
But the fact that one of the things that he talked about was he cut alcohol out. And so because remember we were at the training camp and I asked, well,
Mm-hmm.
how much were you actually drinking? Of course, he said he went to
Right.
Michigan, so that type of school, and he was drinking all the time. To the fact that when he said that, it kind of made me think over the last couple of years when they always talking about he had stomach issues. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, yeah, I see why now.
Yeah.
And so, but now he said the heaviest he was 260, and he of course he plays on the line. How much do you think he weighs now? And then that being the case, how do you think that massive weight loss is going to affect him, if at all, this season?
I think Frank's probably down to what 230 ish, 225, 230.
I
Um,
thought he was 220. I thought he was.
nah, he's not 220.
Yeah.
I think he's down to 220, 225, 230. I think he's slimmed down. He didn't really like he said when you alcohol puts a lot of pounds on you. You cut that out, and that's going to take 10, 15 pounds. They talk about the freshman 15 in college. All that is from drinking and eating bad. And so I think he lost the weight. He looks a lot faster jumping off the line. Now, will he be as physical? Will he be able to be as physical? But I don't really know. I think Frank is there to be seen, but I think he still has the aggression. Um, so we'll see.
Chris Jones, obviously, he's captain of Sack Nation. Are we expecting a better season from Chris Jones? Now, look, we will talk. We will touch on probably in the next block. Expectations and something to prove amongst this team as it relates to how the season ended. But Chris Jones, I know he struggled in the AFC Championship game
Hmm.
trying to get Joe Burrows to the ground. What are your expectations of Chris Jones in this defense?
Mm, that's interesting. You remember last year
We were there.
that he no yeah, last year they moved him to the outside. There was some
Yeah.
experimentation, a lot of experimenting with Chris last year. I didn't like it. That's not where he makes his money.
Yeah.
And we talk about making money. He wanted to move to the defensive end so he could make more. That was what it was. And so he understood, hey, I'm not a DN. My hand got to be in the dirt. So I think he understands, and that once they put Chris in there, just seeing how big he is compared to the centers, compared to those guards, man. There's no stopping Chris Jones to me. And uh, one of the coaches this week said that in order for us to be good, Chris has to have a great year, which was interesting.
Well, I mean, he's one of the team leaders and he's one of the highest paid
Yeah,
players. He needs to have a good season. He needs to
yeah,
have. I mean, for
yeah.
the Chiefs to be successful, and so you don't put too much pressure on the defense and rely and depend on them.
Hmm.
It is going to be very important that someone like Chris Jones is playing well this year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially being a team leader, you gotta put your money where your mouth is. Then you have a guy that is next to you, like Frank Clark. Um, and it seems like you want to be in the competition, right? It's the competitive factor. I think.
So I'm curious. Again, as we talked about earlier, Andy's talking about playing. I would imagine each depth of the team, first, second, third, and
Hmm.
fourth, throughout the quarters. Obviously, with it being the first game, first preseason game, is that
Hmm.
too much too soon, or do you think it's about the right amount of snaps? Because obviously, Andy's not going to be paying attention to everything, except for maybe the first string. But what are they going to be looking for? Because obviously, cuts are going to be coming this week as well.
Yeah, you play your young guys. See what you got. See what you when you want depth. You know what you're going to get from your starters. What more you need to see from them? Those guys have been proven. So, uh, I don't feel like you need to harp on having your starters and your main guys. Play the guys who you want to see something from in real competition, game like. Because I mean, there's only so much you can see in training camp. There's only so much hitting you can do. Now you're able to go out there and hit somebody and show what you got.
Well, we are live from Chicago, Illinois, the site of Chiefs and the Chicago Bears. We're here at Soldier Field. Kickoff is under 45 minutes away.
Hmm.
Darren Smith, Steve Walls. Again, thank you all for tuning in on the social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, as well as Twitter. We'll be doing this all season long, all 20 games, and plus the playoffs. And if the Chiefs play their game properly, we'll see them in the Super Bowl
Mhm.
as well. Steve, I don't know if you want to take a quick timeout and come right back, or we just want to keep it
We
going.
can get the people what they want,
Okay,
man.
we'll get one to. So look, I want to ask you this. So going back to the AFC Championship game, we saw a meltdown unlike any other.
Mm.
I've got to ask this: is there something to prove if you're Mahomes, Reed, and Bieniemy this year? And then we're just gonna go on the offense side for a second,
Mm.
based off of how last season ended. What do they have to prove?
I mean, you don't really have much to prove. I don't think.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't think you have much to prove within that aspect. I mean, you've proven that you've been able to make it to two consecutive Super Bowls. You won one, and you lost one. I mean, then you made 4 AFC Championship games in a row. So I think, as far as to prove, I don't really think you have that. Now, the thing that they're more concerned about is the loss of Tyreek Hill. They want to show that they're still the same team without him. Andy wants to show, hey, I'm still Andy Reid. I'm still the great Andy Reid without a once in a lifetime once in a lifetime talented player, Tyreek Hill. That's, I think, more of their concern than like, hey, we lost in the AFC Championship game.
I disagree. I do think that because here's the thing. you know, Teams generally when they lose a Super Bowl, they don't, they actually have a down season. They
Hmm.
did they did start off 3-4, finished of course in the AFC Championship game, but the way that second half meltdown, because not only once, but you got to remember this is the second time they lost. They had an 18-point lead against a team
Yeah,
in the playoffs, and they blew it. Also had the same eight because you and I we were the only ones there. The team had an 18-point lead against Cincinnati in Cincinnati going into the half, and they came back from behind
but
and beat
this
them.
is but
I,
this
know-
is what goes.
no,
This is what's happened since beginning of time. You
no,
remember
no.
the
I
Indianapolis Colts game, playoff game?
don't remind me.
I
Don't
mean,
remind
it just happened.
Yes, but
Yeah.
the question is, how do you bounce back from it? And so the thing is, for me, Chiefs got to make sure that they, that one, as Patrick said, that they, that they kind of gave the game away. They got to play a complete game, and that's something that you have to make sure that you look. I've always said, especially when you got a team down and they were down by 18 points,
Hmm.
you got to keep running. You got to keep scoring. You got to keep trying to run. Now, I'm not saying teams
Yeah.
aren't going to make adjustments to defense, but that's where chess comes into play. You got to make adjustments to their adjustments.
Yeah, I agree.
And and if you're that type of play caller where people give you all the praise and credit about being able to score points, you got 18-point lead. You come back from the second half. You need to continue to be trying to put points on the board because the last thing you want to do
Yeah.
is have what happens. So what I'm saying is if the Chiefs somehow got back to this championship game,
Hmm.
they need to be able to complete and finish the game. Finish the game the way they started. And so that's my biggest deal because again, you and I mean, we were there, Arrowhead. I mean, everything was looking good going into halftime. And then second half, we didn't know what happened. Now, people talking about stuff might have happened in the locker room. To me, there's no excuse. You got 18-point lead. And I think Patrick said that they played not to lose versus I don't think they played at all versus not to lose versus trying to win the ball game. And so for me, that's what I say. That's what I mean when I say there's something to prove that they can come back and complete. Because again, remember they lost an AFC Championship game
Hmm.
against Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And the next year they came back. They got to the AFC Championship game. Got to the
But look
Super
at the
Bowl.
bigger picture, though. Is it more on the offense or more on the defense? The offense did what they were supposed to do. They put up points,
Well,
right or wrong.
both teams, both sides, because again, because you got to remember, in 2018 when they lost, the defense wasn't doing their job, and off they had to keep scoring, because they knew the defense get the
Yeah.
ball, So and remember, you start out 3-4 too, and the defense picked you up.
Sometimes the things that you do wrong at the beginning of the season, they come back to bite you. I mean that's with any team,
That's
any
what they did.
sport. And so I think when you look at going 3-4, starting out that way, a lot of those things that happened at the beginning of the season, it just came out to bite you. And I feel like I put that on the defense. I put that solely on you could not stop Jamar Chase.
Well,
That's just what it
no,
was.
not only Jamar Chase, but you couldn't, and going to the defensive line, they couldn't bring Joe Burrow down. I
Yeah,
mean, because
yeah.
I mean, especially in the fourth quarter as they were driving, Chris Jones, Frank Clark, hell, I think even Melvin Ingram to an extent. I mean, they actually got their hands on them, but
Yeah,
couldn't bring them down.
yeah.
And I think a lot of that played a factor. But also one of the things, look, we talked about Eric Bieniemy being someone who loves to run the football. the Chiefs, when they got that ball back down under 2 minutes left to go,
Yep.
I believe he wanted. I think he wanted to run the football, but for whatever reason, Patrick dropped back and passed and sacked and stuff like that. So but I think with the addition of all the new players, you do kind of give yourself an advantage and a whole lot more options that you didn't have. And look,
Yeah.
we talk about Tyreek leaving or being traded, but I still think after the initial shock of it happening, I
Hmm.
still think that the Chiefs did well by doing that, and it makes to me, I think it makes the team better. I say that because if the Chiefs came back with Tyreek Hill, one, I don't think you were able to add the offensive weapons in MVS and Juju. I know they try to get Juju, and they might have got him, but I don't know if they would have got him at the same price.
Yeah.
And so, but the teams would have still played Kansas City with their too high shell, and I'm not sure how much adjusting, even after full season, they would have done to combat against it. At least now with MVS and Juju, and obviously they'll roll with McCollum in that starting lineup, and the different in the running game. I think because the defense won't know what to expect because they don't
Yeah.
know just what type of chemistry they have, and of course you got Travis Kelce. We haven't talked about him yet,
Yeah.
but I still think that the defense got to come out in the base set because you don't know what to expect or how the Chiefs are going to hit you when they get on offense. And for me, I'm just a big proponent of that. If the Chiefs can score, they need to just continue to keep trying to score.
Yeah. And I agree. I agree with all of that. But the thing about it too is the fact that now, and even looking back in those games, those AFC Championship games at the end of the season, and even in the Super Bowl, they really didn't have, um, uh, other than Damian Williams, you really didn't have a legit running back, an every down back.
That's what I'm
Clyde,
saying, but that's what they
yeah,
have now. So
and they
that's
do. So, and to me, Clyde's still not your every down back. To
yeah.
me, I think the guy that is an every down back, downs 1 through 3, or downs 2 through 4 or whatever. You got to have that guy that can take the bruising, and Clyde's just not it to me. Um, so I think now with the running game, you have a guy that you can put back there to say, all right, they can hand the ball off, and we have to respect it.
Well, looking at this, of course, looking at some of the veteran additions, Justin Reed, Carlos Dunlap, what do they bring to that defense?
Leadership. I put Justin Reed on the spot. I said, people, guys on this team have said, you know, Tyrann Mathieu, the leader, was the leader of this team. He was the leader of, other than Patrick Mahomes, he was the leader, the guy on the defense that we look towards. We look to him every play. He put us in position every play on the defense. Now I don't know if that's saying much about, because they had the young linebackers, and then of course Chris Jones and those guys know what they were supposed to do. But you had the young corners in Travarius Ward and the other guys that they Sneed. He put them in position, and they've come out and said that. And so now I asked Justin Reed, I said, hey, are you able to do that? He said, that's my quality. He said, it's my strength. I'm able. I'm a leader. Um, I, I can get guys to run through a wall. So I think with Reed, he's gonna be fine. And that's why I threw it out there. And I didn't want to try to compare him, to the Tyron. But you gotta ask the question.
One of the things that I'm excited about, and we haven't talked about it yet, but you talk about the young linebacking core.
Hmm.
Nick Bolton going into his second year, Willie Gay going into his third year. I mean, this is going to be the heart of the Chief defense.
Hmm.
Bolton's going to be the one out there calling the plays, getting
Yeah.
players lined up. What should we expect from them? I mean, we thought that they were going to. I mean, and I think both players are healthy. And actually, if I remember correctly, everybody from the Chiefs are actually healthy coming into this game. But what are your expectations from our young linebacking core?
I think they're going to be gritty. I think they're going to get after it. We saw flashes of Nick Bolton last year. He was thrown into the fire, and now I think he's able to
He
play
ball.
faster. He understands the scheme. He's been there, and so with Willie Gay, I think he brings it. Then you have it's a couple of young guys that are able to throw out there. Now coverage may be a little bit of an issue, um, but that's how that's why you have coaching. If you're not able to correct that, then then we have a problem.
Well, swing back to the offense side of football. Look, everybody's talking about who's going to make the running back squad, who's going to make the wide receiver,
Hmm.
but we're gonna forget now because again, we can't say that she's gonna keep 4, 5, 6 wide receivers because they got 4 tight ends. I mean,
Yeah,
again, all
yeah.
of them played a role.
Hmm.
Jody Wilson before he got injured last year, but rookie going into a second year, Noah Gray. Of course, you have Blake Bell and the one and only tight end number one, Travis Kelsey. I mean, so when you look at that tight end set, it does make how many wide receivers and running backs that you keep
Right.
a little bit. I guess it definitely does because and you definitely want to have depth on the offensive line. But talk about this tight end group.
I'm excited about it. I mean, Kelsey is what he is. He's not
He
gonna.
just Kelsey,
He's gonna be a Hall of Famer. And so that's always gonna be Patrick's outlet. That's always gonna
that
be his
safety
go-to.
blanket.
Yeah, that's always gonna be him. So other than that, I mean, you getting Blake Bell, Belldozer. You got him. He's proven. And then I like the fact that you bring that Jody Fortson's back. Noah Gray has shown some signs in camp. Also, a couple of catches last season. So I think with those, and you guys don't forget that Andy Reid showed a 4 tight end set in a game last year.
He did.
So if Jody Fortson wouldn't have gotten hurt, he would have been definitely he would have helped contribute to this offense. Remember, he did come from a wide receiver. He was a wide receiver, and he moved over to be a tight end to be able to make the team. So I think now it's to have the four tight ends. I really like it. I really like it because all of them can do their own variant of things.
And again, for me, I go back to pressure and things to prove this year because when as you mentioned before, Mahomes, at least with the wide receivers, he's got to elevate their play, for them, for them to be successful. But I kind of go back to Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy. I mean, and I don't look. Let me say, when we say they have all this offense, it's because of what we see daily compared to what fans around the country see as it relates to our team. So our expectations are going to be different than what the regular fans are. We get a chance to see them every day, and we know what the potential is and what they can be. That being the case, again, going back to Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, knowing, like you said, you ran 4 tight end sets a few times last year. You got these wide receivers, you got these running backs. How much pressure is it on you to get it right? I mean, as it relates to the personnel that you decide to keep at the end of the training camp with the 50-man roster, but also put in position and have them plays that that you put them in the best position to do well.
I don't think there's a lot of pressure there. I really don't. I think Andy knows what he has. I think he's and these all the guys aren't new. I mean, you have your wide receiving core; those are new, but those are guys that have come from good teams, from good quarterbacks. I mean, you have Juju, who came from Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh, great coach. You have MVS, they came from Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, so you know what those guys are going to bring to the table. When Patrick looks around in the huddle and he sees the whites in those guys' eyes, they've been around future Hall of Fame quarterbacks. So I think from that standpoint, you don't have a worry with that.
3 players in today's game that you want to see some, that you would like to see whether or not they can stand out or not. I'll start with you.
Sky Moore, Isaiah Pacheco, and I'm gonna give you 2. I'm gonna give you.
You'll give me 4.
Yeah. 4. Sorry. What I say? Sky Moore, Isaiah Pacheco, and then I'm gonna go to the defensive end. And I'm gonna give you George Karlaftis, and I'm gonna give you linebacker. I'm gonna give you Leo Chenal. Leo Chenal. So those 4 guys I want to see. I mean, just the young guys. I want to see what they're able to bring. I mean, we know Chenal can hit, but can he cover? I want to see Spags put him out just to draw up something where he has to go and cover a running back or go cover the tight end. I want to see that. He's had to cover these guys have talked about having to cover Travis Kelsey. You can cover Kelsey in camp. You can cover anybody, right? As far as the tight end go. Now, I'm not saying he can go out there and cover wide receiver, Byron Pringle or anybody like that. So I'm just that's who I want to see. And I also want to see Karlaftis. I want to see how he gets off the line. I want to see him go against, somebody other than our left tackle and right tackle. And then I just want to see Sky Moore. I want to see him catch a pass. Okay. What can he do? So, I just want to see the plethora of young guys.
Okay, now look, that's fair. But 1, you cheated. I asked for 3. You want to stretch it out. And,
4. I had to give you 4.
Well, you had to give me 4.
I don't follow the rules. Come on now.
Well, obviously. But I'll go with my 3. 1, Joshua Williams. He's a Chiefs first.
I like that.
He's first. Chiefs.
I
HBCU
like that. Yep.
draft pick in some time. But everybody talked about that move from his division up there.
Hmm.
We know he's going to get some reps today. So I want to see, I want to see whether or not. And I don't think. Look, I don't think everybody talk about the game speed and stuff like that, and it's a different thing. But my thing is, once you get on the football field, football is still football.
Yeah.
Tackle, make the plays
Always.
and stuff like that. So I want to see his adjustments and how he does out course preseason. But I want to see what he does with the reps that he takes. Secondly, I will go with whoever they have left. Well, I know they got. Uh, right, I got Andrew Wiley, but I want to see what Darian Kennard. I want to see what some of these players
Hmm.
who's going to be in that swing tackle position on the right side. And like you, I do want to see how the rookies do. So Kennard, I want to see where he's at. This was a position last year. The offensive line were basically they had to play a lot of snaps because you threw 5 new players
Right.
in there, and of course Lucas Niang. I mean he's just kind of falling by the wayside. I know he's injured, but still he had an opportunity, and it seemed like he might let it pass him by with Wiley and Kennard, being above him on the depth chart. So I'm looking to see what happens with that. And then I would probably say I could get with you as it relates to uh, Carl Loftus because again, everybody I'm talking about that motor,
Yeah.
his motor. So
Yeah.
I want to see whether or not he brings it. Like you said, like he brings. Let's see whether or not you bring it. I'm still not as convinced like everybody is about him,
Hmm.
but he can, he can make a believer out of me, and
Yeah.
that's something that I want to see. So those would be my 3.
Um, Grade three. Grade three. I mean, and that's the good thing about preseason is that we're able to see the young guys play.
Yeah, yeah.
They're going to be going up against the other team's young guys, which
And,
today will
and
be the
it's
Bears.
important too because the Chiefs they've had so many draft picks over the last
Hmm.
years, and one thing I've always said about the Chiefs do well is that because you got Patrick, who is now going into his contract extension, his new contract, because you got him on such a high deal that it's imperative that the Chiefs get good play out of their rookies and second year players because you got them one on the cheap relative, and then two, you get a chance to get them mixed in with the veterans, and so they're allowed to, so that gives them a chance to ball out and to make good plays. But then, when it comes time for them to get a contract, you can be like, well, you
Yeah,
got a
yeah, of
replacement.
course, of course.
So, so that's what I like about what the Chiefs have done over the last basically 10 years, so to speak.
And you're very spot on because you remember they would give guys that should not have gotten deals, the Justin Houstons,
Yeah.
the Tom Bahalis. Those guys were older, but they still got paid, right? They were older, and of course, and that was the problem that this team had consistently. You got to understand. All right, we've drafted guys. Let's go put them to use.
Yeah.
And like you said, Bill Belichick and the Patriots, they've always had that in their motto, their business
Yeah, he
plan.
traded him a year too
Yeah,
soon versus a year
yeah,
too late.
exactly.
And look, and to the Chiefs' credit, you mentioned Marcus Peters earlier. Marcus Peters, I think he was a first round draft pick, if not
He
second.
was,
Yeah,
he
first round.
was.
But they got a lot out. I mean, and he bought out. I think he might have been defensive rookie of the year
Hmm.
because I know he made the All Pro and I know he made the Pro Bowl because he had like 8 interceptions. So he balled out as a rookie, and that's what you want. I mean, especially and look, Creed Humphreys, Trey Smith last year. 2 rookies, second, fifth round draft picks that actually. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I saw
Mm-mm.
that played well last year. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah.
I will say, and see now I got to pull one of your numbers.
Hmm.
If we go back and look and see who else might need to do something, and not necessarily week 1, right here. But I want to see what Cornell Powell's going to do. He made the squad
He's on the
last year
chopping
as a.
block. He's on the chopping
Yeah,
block. He's
I
gonna
mean,
be.
and he was one of those players that made the practice squad. Coming back into going into the season. So I want to see what he's able to do with stuff because he was a rookie last year,
Hmm.
one of the few that did not make the team, make the active 53-man roster. So I want to see what he does with his opportunity this time around.
Yeah, I agree because you got guys like Cornell Powell. You have the Jordan
Doris
Watson,
Fountain,
Doris Fountain.
people,
So
Justin Watson,
Justin Watson, and I really like Justin Watson. I do.
and
But
Jared Ely as well.
those guys, I think they're going to keep the 6 receivers. I really do. I think they're going to keep 6. And if I
If
had
they
to,
keep 6, it's hard for me to see Josh Gordon not making it.
Yeah, I mean I see MVS, McCole,
Sky.
of course, yeah, Sky, Juju. That's four. And then for the fifth and the sixth, do you go with the? Are you going to go with the young guys? Are you going to go with the Justin Watson? Even though he's not really young, are you going to go? I think Corey Coleman is out of here. I think Gary Jennings is out.
They got a lot
Jerry
of
and Ely. Yeah, so it is between Cornell Powell and it's between Josh Gordon at the end of the day.
I'd keep Josh Gordon, but that's just me.
Okay.
I mean,
All
because
right. I mean,
I'm just saying 6'3", he's still a big body. I mean, you get him down on the goal line. I mean, you can't teach that. You can't coach that. Some of that is still natural ability.
I agree.
And
I agree.
so I would go with that. Look, man, there's we looked at a lot of things about what these teams are looking to do.
Looks like we got chicken strips for lunch.
Oh, we got chicken strips. Okay, well, I know, see her. I know Herbie's happy about that. But look, I want to ask you, Steve. We've got things to look for this upcoming football season, and I do want to ask you, and we'll talk more about it as we get closer to the season. But the AFC West got Russell Wilson over in Denver. You got Devontae Adams coming from Green Bay over to the Las Vegas Raiders. Khalil Mack back in the AFC West, this time alongside Joey Bosa over with the Los Angeles Chargers. One, how tough is this AFC West going to be for the Kansas City Chiefs to try to win for a 7th straight year? And two, do you think they can? Or do you think they will?
I think it's the toughest division in football. I really do. I think it's one
No
of the. It's not one of. It's the toughest division in football. You have 4 quarterbacks that have all been proven. You look at all of these other. You look at all of the other divisions. They'll have a drop off at quarterback somewhere. You have either a rookie, or you have a guy that is just hanging on to his job. So I think you have 4 guys now. Derek Carr is probably the only question mark. But as far as division, I think this is the best division in football. AFC West.
Definitely best division. I think the Chiefs eke it out. I do think it's the Chiefs, perhaps the Chargers, Broncos. Ooh, actually, no, I'll wait till we close to the season. I gotta see how training camp and everything shakes out. But see, before we get out of here, try to get through before it starts with the introductions. But who wins the game today? I know it's preseason, so got about 2 minutes left. I know it's preseason, so I got to ask, who wins this game? And for me, as a betting man, do the Chiefs win? Yeah. And is it over 39 points?
And that's the thing. I'm not really looking at wins. I don't care if the Chiefs wins or win. I mean, I know you do. I know you do. But I don't really care if they win. But I just the winner is first is who can get out of this game without having any injuries.
Well, hell, I mean the Chicago Bears, they've been dropping like flies just in practice. So I think it's important for both teams, but especially the Chiefs to come out of this game without any injuries.
Yeah, and so that's one, and then two, I just feel like I'm watching those guys that I said. I'm watching the running backs. I'm watching the secondary. I really am. I want to see what they can do, and I'm also this first series. I'm watching Orlando Brown. You got to remember, he wants to get paid, so it starts now for him. He's betting on himself. So the Chiefs are going to need to get the most out of him, which I feel like they won on this deal.
They now, work the dog.
Because now you're going to have to get the best of what he can bring. So yeah, that's who I'm watching.
That's a good point. Good point. I obviously got the Chiefs winning. They. Vegas got me with 3 instead of 2. Well, it was initially even when I tried to place the bet, and they switched it to 3, so they got me. But I mean, I think the Chiefs win easily because one, they just have healthy players, and they got a lot more depth. And with what the Chiefs are expecting offensively, they should be able to put points up on the board. Bears probably be able to get a few points in as well. I got the Chiefs winning. I got it going over 39 points.
Okay.
There have been a lot of high-scoring preseason games. Again, you got nothing to lose because, I mean, you're basically trying to get to the regular season without your major stars getting injured, so to speak. That being the case, Steve, we will, of course, be doing this game next week.
Yep.
We'll come on the air at 2:00. I think next week's game is at home against the Washington Commanders,
Mhm.
and that is a 3 o'clock kickoff. So we'll be
Yeah.
back at 2 o'clock. Make sure you follow us as it relates to our post game as we bring you live coverage of the press conference with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and might even have some highlights in the locker rooms as well. So for Steve Walls, Darren Smith, thank you so much for joining us for the Kansas City Chiefs pregame cheat sheet. Enjoy the game.